Hey everyone, the Walrus Clown here with the first review of 2023, and a viewer request at that, the 90s animated adaptation of the film franchise, the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes cartoon, everyone. See you after title card, everybody. Otter, roll the title sequence! Let's start off with the technicals. During the 70s, they made the horror comedy spoof Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, which you don't really need to watch to understand anything that happens in the series. Then, during the 80s, they made a sequel that had little to do with the original, that you also don't need to watch to understand the cartoon outside the fact that all the characters are from this movie as opposed to the original one. Let's get on to the characters. The only character from the original film that made it into the sequel and the cartoon is one Wilbur Finletter. He is the owner of a pizza restaurant whose main gag is that he is constantly trying to make a new pizza recipe without pizza sauce because all tomato and tomato accessories have been outlawed because of what happened in the films. Then we have the main character and star of the sequel film, Chad Finletter, whom is Wilbur's nephew and is de-aged from being a college-aged in the film to being a younger teen in this. He is your generic milquetoast nice kid you always see in these kinds of cartoons, but he isn't annoying or anything, so he makes for a passable main character. Then we have the fan favorite character, a girl named Tara, a girl voiced by Katsushi, whom the writers used for as much anime-esque fan service that the standards and practices would let them get away with, who is actually a tomato that was turned into a human tomato hybrid by the series' main villain, Dr. Gangrene, who is a stereotypical mad scientist who wants to use mutant tomatoes to do what else but to pull off the M. Bison plot.
Of course!
A running gag is that Tara turns into a full tomato when she's exposed to salt, but turns back when she sneezes after being exposed to pepper. This was an obscure cartoon from the late 80s, early 90s that had a toy tie-in with Katsushi voicing a character that was heavily sexualized. How the hell did I end up reviewing this before Paranormal Rob from Cartoon Clip Show? If this makes it back to Rob, love your work, let's collab sometime, have your people contact my people, we'll do lunch. Anywho, let's get into the animation and writing. You can tell that the people who made this show were doing the best they could given the budget they were given, and the writing is just really good. Whatever you do, do not marathon the whole show in one sitting. You'll get burned out. Only watch in 3-episode bunches. For an example of an episode in rare form, let's go over to episode 10, Spatula, Prince of Darkness. We open up on Dracula, yes Dracula, giving us an opening cluing us into that this episode is a spoof of horror action shows. And yes, he's one of those I want to suck your blood vampires. Anywho, we cut to the pizza place where Uncle Wilbur is trying and failing to push his new Halloween pizza. It's understandable that it fails as a pizza because anything that has candy corn in it is automatically terrible. Then Tara in a sexy cat girl outfit tries to comfort him about it, and the mutant tomato dog thing I forgot to mention spits it out after it's shoved in its mouth. Then, after an explosion caused by Uncle Wilbur trying to cook an overly spicy pizza blows up Dr. Gangrene's latest plan to use tomato balloons to conquer the city, yes really, they break the fourth wall by having the film stop in Dracula from the opening, giving him stuff to make a vampire tomato. Gangrene then said it would be too dangerous, only for his hench tomato to mishear serum as syrup, and drinks it and becomes a vampire tomato, and names himself Count Spatula, Lord of Darkness.
He said it! He said it!
After he gets examined by Gangrene and escapes, just as he's about to bite someone to turn them into a ghoul, the reoccurring censor lady comes and files his teeth down and says that it's too violent that he needs to kiss people instead of biting them to appease the censors. He does this, and a spoof of your basic late 70s zombie movie happens, including this scene that I'm just going to show you of Tara being a sexy vampire. You're welcome, Internet.
How about a little kiss, booby?
And then a bunch of gag vignettes about vampires and the news broadcasting about the problem happens until almost all hope is lost. Our heroes are on the verge of almost losing everything. The sun suddenly comes up and all the vampires fall asleep. Then Dracula shows up, reveals that he's wearing sunblock, apologizes for giving Gangrene the formula, gives Wilbur the antidote, bamps out, and the episode ends. The writing can be a bit esoteric at times, but is just so funny when you get the joke. I had to leave out a ton of what happened to avoid spoiling anything. It's an ideal parody of early 90s action cartoons that were popular back then, and I would totally call this a hidden early 90s gem, if not for all the unfunny shenanigans pulled in season 2.
Ah!
The property owners switched out 100% of the production staff, and as a result, the animation is worse, Tara starts dressing far more conservatively, and the writing went from being a parody of action shows to just being one. And it tried to tell a long, continuous story on top of that. Now, don't get me wrong, modern cartoons like Voltron or the Owl House that do that are totally my jam, but doing that takes time, planning, and a budget. 3 things that most 90s cartoons just didn't have. That and the fact that because you had to plan your life around watching something instead of just being able to stream it when it was convenient for you to watch it like today, meant that if you missed an episode, you were completely lost. So doing this back then was just not a good idea. Anywho, if you want to check it out for yourself, you can easily find Season 1 right here on YouTube. It comes highly recommended, but stay away from Season 2 unless you are extremely curious. And don't say that I didn't warn you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you next time, and stay fresh, cheese bags. Boo!